Hey Internet, this is Chaz.
And I'm Dan. Welcome to Wine is Serious Business, episode 231. We're here today with Ken Powell and Erica Landon of Walter Scott Wines. Thrilled to be shooting two interviews back-to-back in wine country. You see these beautiful vineyards behind us. Justice and Temperance Hill, and what else?
Southeast Block, Flat Block, Lumen, and the Bethel Heights Estate.
Man, big names all in one show. There's a really good chance this is the most named vineyards we'll ever have in a single episode.
Probably.
Who knows if we'll beat that, but that's a lot. Thrilled to be here today, and just to get into it, why don't you guys just talk for a minute or two about yourselves, what brought you to wine, and what brought you right here?
Oh, well, what brought us here to the Double Wide was a insane jump off of a ledge in 2012 to lease our own space, our own facility, which is the former Wandering Angus Cider House, and move into the lovely Double Wide.
In the heart of the Eola Amity Hills.
Heart of the Eola Amity Hills. Let's get that hashtag Eola Amity Hills in there.
No, it's where we wanted to be. It was exactly, we always wanted to be a part of the community down here. We believe in the vineyards and the climate and the soils, and we just weren't quite aware that it would be so soon.
Right.
Yeah. We've been making wine underneath other people's roofs for a couple years, selling wine for them, and just planning to make that leap, but in 2012 we were kind of had to, and this came available, and we rent it from the Castiles of Bethel Heights, and kind of a dream come true. We couldn't ask for a better place to be.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
So we both grew up in the Oregon wine industry. Ken on the side of production, sales, and marketing. Myself on the side of restaurants, wine education. Kind of wine director, and we met through our positions. He was selling me wine, teaching me about Burgundy, teaching me about Oregon, and
thinking she was pretty cute along the way.
I thought he was pretty cute too.
Best sales job,
It was pretty good. So 2002, I started selling wine at Dundee Bistro, and I was working for St. Innocent at that time since 1995, and an importer called Bondegard. I was a crazy two-job guy, and just selling wine and making more money than I should have been. And
skipping forward, 2008, we became an item. And then he had some wine and barrel, and I said, what are you going to do with it? And he wasn't quite sure, but he had this vision for a label to name after his grandfather and his nephew. Walter, his grandfather, and Scott, his nephew, two really impactful people in his life. And so I
really cool story about that on the website, by the way. You go on and read that. It's really cool.
So I shoved him off the cliff, and we both emptied meager retirement funds. And
we are in the wine business, so those retirement accounts weren't very big, and it was totally worth it. It was actually 2008. We decided to go all in, and then traded labor for space at Patricia Green Cellars, and just got the ball rolling. And so we went from 600 cases to now pushing 2,500 cases and another leap to about 3,000.
So here we are.
4 years.
There you go.
In the Double Wide.
In the Chateau Double Wide.
That's fantastic.
So we have a few wines here to try. What are we going to drink first?
Let's go Euro style and drink Chardonnay last.
Okay.
Cool.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right.
So we'll start with the Dumox.
All right. And this was the first wine from them that really caught my attention. I had enjoyed other wines from them previously, but I think did you do this in 2010?
Yep.
I think
it was the first one that really
I think it was the 2010. Like, I think we've even had earlier wines on their show that I enjoyed, but the 2010 Dumox, I was like, killer. This is something I
think you guys had Holstein, maybe the 09.
That sounds right.
But then this. So So Dumox is Eola Springs, one of my heroes, Russ Rainey. And also, this gentleman's a huge fan. I think we're all
big time.
No, shout out to Russ.
Shout out to Russ.
Epsom Wood. Have fun in Provence. I gave him a call in 2010, looking for Eola Amity Hills fruit, and he's like, Eola Springs is great. The owners are really special, and so I went out there and got some fruit for myself and a little bit for Evenline at the time, and I didn't know what the blocks were until this stuff showed up, and he's like, well, that's your Dumox and this is your St. Augustine. I'm like, okay, well, I know I was getting some Old Vine stuff from here and Old Vine stuff from there, and we love the name. It's got a great story behind it. It's Thomas Aquinas' nickname, and it's own rooted Pommard, planted in '96, and we think it's pretty special, and the owners are lovely people, and
We both believe strongly that the energy of the people that work and own the vineyards go directly into the fruit as well. It's
Absolutely.
a very kind of cyclical and so there's a special energy with this vineyard and with the owners and they've become family.
Yeah.
But this is we get 1 acre. It tends to be between 4 and 5 barrels every year.
Yeah.
This year in 2012, which we're tasting, it's 125 cases.
So pretty limited. There's probably not a whole lot of this left then, right?
We feel really blessed by all the support we've had, and it's a lovely block. And the owners again are like they're like family.
Excellent.
These guys. So these were bottled January 10th, which is actually our anniversary. I didn't.
Awesome.
Cool. Yeah.
I didn't intend for it to be on our wedding anniversary, but it was the day I could get, and luckily it was. I made the date long after we expected our daughter to arrive and be born, so she was still born late and kind of pushed our bottling date. So they've been in a bottle for about almost 4 months now, and 2012 I think is a really, really solid vintage. There's a lot of excitement about it. So.
Right, and I've been really excited about the wines I've tasted so far. I mean, it lends to at least the style of wine I like.
Mm-hmm. Right. I get a lot of great floral notes on the nose here. Earlier today, and I've kind of been in a rut. I don't know if you ever get this when you're out tasting, and you're like, you taste the same thing in every wine you taste all day long, and after like the third or fourth, you're like, oh, this isn't the wines, this is me. And I've been tasting violets all day long, and I'm getting into this, and I'm like, is that violets? Like, I'm feeling more roses. I think this isn't quite as dark of a floral character.
No.
There's still some redness to it, but I get some really nice strawberry scents, good cherries, like some good fruit on the nose, but it's not like, you know, blowing up in your face or anything like that. It's still kind of restrained. We got an animal guest. Yep. This is going to be our most popular show ever.
Anytime this happens, yeah.
Kira the Blue Healer, very bossy.
No, I would agree with what you would say on the nose, and like the roses definitely stick out as far as a floral component, right? Like, but cherries, strawberries definitely has some great aromatics. So
their aromatics are they're really important to us. It's like any wine that I ever taste, it's the first thing I do. I go right for the nose. I mean, obviously a pretty color is really nice, but as soon as you smell it, I mean, if it was one of those black glasses that Riedel makes,
sure,
what you're going to smell first is those aromatics, and it's like that lead that draws you into the wine.
This is all fermented with ambient yeast, so we don't inoculate with anything, and a combination of punch down and pump overs, slow fermentations. I think we both feel like that helps to capture some of that delicate aromatics. And then aged for about 15 months in barrel before being blended and bottled.
Yeah. And we were tasting in the winery just maybe 30 minutes ago, and one thing that really struck me was Ken was talking a lot about how important it is to keep the pump downs or pump overs and punch downs like just going and going and going. Because you let it sit too long, right? You run into problems. And I know some of our friends out there, I'm talking to you, Bo, get are really sensitive to flaws that come from not keeping the cap moist, right?
Exactly. And you want to, for me, keeping the cap moist is critical. I am once a fermentation gets going, you want to help those yeasts do their thing. And I'll, slip a heating plate, pump overs, just give it some oxygen and really help those ambient native yeasts do their job and give them just a little pat on the butt to go and get their job done. Just help them along. I mean, if you're going to ask them to do all that work, the least you can do is like give them a little assist and some oxygen and just really taking care of every fermenter as its own thing. I mean, our goal is to make enough wine to where we can do everything. We host all of our own appointments. We do all of our own punch downs, pump overs. This one, distribution, sales, everything. This one runs the entire press cycles on both Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, and no one's allowed to get near the press.
And for those of you in the business, you know what a serious commitment that is. Yeah. They were just talking about what was that, like a 16-hour day or something like that.
Yeah.
And while working a day job.
No biggie.
Yeah.
No biggie.
Hardcore. So that's like serious commitment to what's going on. And I think that cleanliness really comes through here, as well as some really just good complexity of the fruit. The acidity, I think, is really full on the palate here, and different from a lot of acidities that I encounter, and that I'm not going to go with like lemon or lime as much as this is more like a nice crisp orange. There's a little more richness to the acidity, I think.
Yeah.
Sure.
And kind of like a fullness to the fruit. And while the fruit itself, like the strawberries and the blackberries and things like that, aren't so rich and heavy, they're still full, and there's a good sense of complexity to it as well.
I agree. I mean, it lends to, like the taste for me is more towards like a young raspberry. Like the acidity there is all red fruited to me. But there's a whole plethora of red fruits. I mean, there's like young cherries, young blackberries, but like the raspberries there sort of sing to me a little bit. And then there's a bit of a savory note, like sort of in the mid palate of the finish that is really cool. A load of acidity, which is typically kind of tough for me, but it is balanced well enough with the intensity of fruit flavors that it doesn't overwhelm.
Right, and if it were like lemony, that'd be a problem.
Totally.
Right? Like
it would
I get that a little bit.
I get that regularly. Yeah, and this is not that, and it's killer. And this is really delicious.
Is an interesting site. So it's Eola Amity Hills, which typically the predominant soil is volcanic-based clay. But in this vineyard, this particular block, there's a ribbon of marine sediment that kind of runs through it, which is which you can find in certain areas of the Eola Amity Hills. While it is a bit more rare, you do find it, and I think that tends to give this wine more power and a little bit more muscle, and I think that kind of hones towards kind of the style of wines that you like sometimes, that little bit bigger, and I love it too, but I think too that pop of acidity, it takes people by surprise.
Volcanic gives it just this kind of edginess and this tautness and cut, which lends to...
It's a blend of both soils,
to some freshness.
There's a little bit of both.
I agree.
Yeah, it's got both soils, which is really unique, and one of the many reasons why we love working with this vineyard.
Yeah. A little question to educate ourselves here a bit too. You talked about marine sediment. Is that the same as Missoula flood sedimentary soils, or is that separate?
No. So there's three main soil types in the Willamette Valley. There's a few more, but to be kind of generalize the whole thing, you have the volcanic-based basalt. Those are the ones that have kind of weathered down into the clay. You find those predominantly in the Dundee Hills, which is the rich, jory, kind of deep red clay. And then the Eola Amity Hills are also predominantly volcanic soils. But in the Eola Hills, they're a little bit rockier, a little bit thinner, generally speaking. You have deep clay as well. And you also find sections of it in the McMinnville AVA as well as the Chehalem Mountain AVA. But Dundee and Eola are predominantly clay. Okay. Then the second main soil is the really ancient marine sediment. And these literally are sediments from the ocean floor that were underneath the ocean for millions of years. And they're compacted siltstone and sandstone. And those soils tend to drain really well. They tend to not retain nearly the amount of water that the volcanic soils do. They tend to, generally speaking, be warmer, drier soils. And so, again, generally speaking, you get a bit more pH and lower acids in the marine sediments, whereas the volcanic soils, because they're cooler, they're a little bit wetter, they tend to have higher acid, lower pH resulting wines. So you tend to get that kind of pop to the wines. And then, interestingly enough, to talk about another soil is the Freedom Hill.
Yeah, let's do a little rinse first, and then
really nice.
We always do a little. You don't have to rinse yourselves, but we.
And Freedom Hill, for me, like Freedom Hill's been a vineyard, like ever since I first got into wine, Freedom Hill was making really good wine right off the bat, and got really excited about their wine. So it's really awesome that you guys are getting some of their fruit.
We're honored. We, in 2012, picked up 2 vineyards that are just, and it's funny, when Ken and I started, we're talking about vineyards that you would be honored to work with. And certainly the Duché family of Freedom Hill, Die Crisp of Temperance Hill, and then of course always Seven Springs was high on that list as well.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Kind of often the
someday
2 for 3 is not bad.
But in 2012 we had the honor of getting 1 acre blocks of both Temperance and Freedom, and that was one of those things that really I don't know.
That's awesome.
It was, you know,
just
for
awesome.
me, it kind of went full circle. My first vintage at St. Innocent was 1995, and I worked with Temperance Hill and Freedom Hill and Seven Springs. And I've been really lucky to work with some amazing people and to go full circle and be able to reunite with these folks and work with them.
Awesome.
They had
As
some
a
fruit
winemaker.
as a winemaker now, and not just working with their fruit underneath someone else. And
you've had ideas about this fruit for decades.
I've had
right?
ideas
Like,
of how I would like to approach this fruit,
Yeah.
and there was only 1 acre left of Freedom Hill, and it was a Pommard block. I didn't know where it was. I called Dan Duché up, and he's like, I've only got 1 acre left. And I said, Dan, I'll take it because I would love to work with you guys. And so this is 1 acre of 11-year-old vine Pommard, smack dab in the middle of the vineyard. I've got St. Innocent on one side, Patricia Green Cellars on another, Merriman on the other side. So it's just a really nice neighborhood and some of the best people in the business. And we're really fortunate that moving forward, they've extended this block by another 3/4, given us an acre of Badensville, and are planting some Chardonnay for us. So
And
it's a
as-
long-term relationship that we're
And as a
pumped.
family, they, there's a lot changing and happening and morphing in this industry right now. And I think one of the really wonderful things is talking to them about how they're here to stay. They're working their son Dustin into taking over the vineyard.
Yeah.
He grew up on that vineyard, and that's where they're going.
Oregon.
And so
Oregon.
knowing that they're here for the long haul, we have an opportunity to have a long-standing relationship with them
Yep.
and work with their fruit for a long time is incredibly exciting.
absolutely.
And that's a big deal now, right? Because if you're
Right.
watching the show, you care about Oregon wine, you know the news. Probably more vineyards have been
Yeah.
bought, spaces been bought and sold this year than any time in the history
crazy.
of Oregon.
I
wine.
think so.
Probably.
Yeah, at the
I mean,
Wine Valley
hearing
Wine
about wine,
Association
for
meeting.
sure, yeah.
that's just like kind of a random guess, but I'd be surprised if that were not true.
Yep.
And so right for people like you guys who are buying your fruit, right? Those relationships are life and death, no joke,
More and more
right?
and more.
Like,
It's
more
so
and more.
important
Yeah.
that your relationship with your growers and you understand how important that is, and we do everything we can to work with them and communicate with them and let them know how much we appreciate and how huge a part of our business and our future and our family they are.
Yeah.
Right.
It's important.
yeah. So cheers to all of you
Yeah,
growers.
cheers to the
working-
growers.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't for all of them, we wouldn't.
And
have
there's a
this
lot of us
industry.
out there that are in the same situation. You look
Yeah.
at the Crowleys of the world, you can go on and on about
The
the people
Matellos
that-
of the world.
Matellos
Yeah.
that buy
Yeah.
fruit from these.
But I think it's the best thing you could do for the vineyard is to make killer make killer wine from it.
honor
Right.
them by
Yeah.
taking really good care of their fruit
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
showing off them through what we do.
Right.
Yeah.
And that right there.
So
All I need.
this vineyard has got a really interesting soil. It's kind of tucked into the Coast Range. It's just
Yep.
south and west of the Yola-Amity Hills, tucked in the Coast Range, right kind of near Illahee.
Shares a fence line with Croft
Yeah.
and Amelie Robert, and Firesteed has a block out there. It's a really neat site, kind of in the rain shadow of the Coast Range, a little warmer. It just has a really, really nice feel to it. When you drive out there, there's something special about it.
And the soils are unique as well. So we kind of completely
Smells
move
awesome.
away from the volcanic and the marine sediment.
It's one
And
of my
there's
favorites.
this interesting kind of brown loam, lots of
Yep.
glacial deposits in there.
Very silty loam soil, and I think that contributes to the kind of muscle and black fruit that people generally expect and get from this vineyard.
I would say
Kind of
there's
black
kind of
fruit
a
on the
unique
nose.
character. Like this
Yeah.
is outside of all of the AVAs, right?
Yep.
And I think it
Yep.
really does bring something to the table that you kind of can't take for granted, or that you can't assume coming
That
from
all the
region.
best vineyards are
I
in
dig
the
it.
AVAs, because this one sits out and everyone knows this is a great vineyard.
Yeah.
And I think going back to it is a long-standing vineyard. It was planted when?
82 originally.
Nice.
So it definitely has gained a reputation, and it's well deserved, I think.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, when I was first getting into wine, I had a few really good experiences with Freedom Hill. Well, Freedom Hill and Seven Springs, but
Yeah.
Freedom
But
Hill.
that's-
Freedom Hill was awesome, and so it's interesting to know now like where they.
Do you remember your first experience as far as producers with Freedom Hill?
Lang?
Lang.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh man, yeah.
That it was 06.
That
like,
06
yeah,
on release
uh,
was smoking. Yeah.
Yeah.
it was delicious.
Yeah,
just
it is.
I mean,
we did a 3-year vertical of Lang. If you don't know that, that's in our archives. Check it out.
Episode which?
I don't know the number. I can link it I can link it below. I don't know.
050607, Lang
Freedom
Hill.
Awesome.
Nice.
And they were.
But you know, Lang, Panther Creek used to be a big part in there. St. Innocent. With now Elizabeth Chambers and Michael Stevenson, one of the sweetest guys around.
Cool.
But a lot of great people getting fruit from that site.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it's super dark fruited. Like Freedom Hill is definitely like all the times I've tasted, it's like been a sort of more of a substantial wine, like a little more powerful.
Yeah.
To the
Which
point
is
of a flaw.
surprising.
Honestly, sometimes I'll even say that. Yeah. Like sometimes it's been too big for me.
Right. Well, I don't have that problem.
So this is right down your
No,
alley.
there's a certain taste, but man, like here in 2012, like it's got sort of everything I want. Like it smells like very dark fruited, rich, ripe blackberries on the nose.
Edging
ripe
into
cherries,
a little black brambles, I think, but I love the blackberries.
There is sort of like a
Dark
light
cherries.
herbaceousness to it, or like a greenness to it.
And not like Cab Sauv. I use that same descriptor all the time for both blackberries with brambles. It's not like you bite the brambles and you're like cutting up the vines at the same time. It's just like just a hint of it. Like maybe you're eating them as you walk back to the house.
Or
not,
maybe
not
you kind
vegetal,
of
but more like herbal. And
smell those kind of warm leaves in the fruit. Like when we go out and pick blackberries at Justice, and as you're walking by the blackberries, you can smell the fruit along with those warm leaves. It's kind of get that. I think it's
totally
that kind
agree.
of bramble.
Yeah.
I think one of
And
the
then
things,
as you're popping them in your mouth as you're walking, like she does.
I don't. Well, so
Nice.
one thing with me and like blackberries and strawberries especially, I don't take off the green stem. I just eat the whole thing.
Oh, nice.
I don't stop at it. Like it doesn't slow me down, right? Like so.
very serious.
I just get it right.
Yeah.
So it's got sort of that, and it smells delicious. It smells wonderful.
And I get a little bit of tobacco too, just a touch.
Yeah.
But
There's very dark flavors, and like you said, it's very kind of a powerful brooding wine. And that, I think that soil contributes to this.
Absolutely.
The skins tend to be thicker. The fruit on this vineyard has very thick skins, and there's a very high concentration of phenolics in this, which are the compounds of flavor and color.
Yeah.
And so when you're working this fermenter to bring it back to that, you have to be cognizant of where the extraction is and not over extract, because it's easy to try to get too much out of this
Super
fruit.
easy. And I talked to several people when we were getting this fruit. Ben Castile, who's doing amazing work up at Bethel Heights, and obviously my work at St. Innocent and some other folks, and everyone said, oh, it's really tannic, it's really tannic, it's really tannic. So, trying to capture that without it being too much.
Right.
And just little things along the way to keep it still say Freedom Hill, because if you're going to do a single vineyard, it must speak of where it comes from, but not
Not
be
karate
too
chop
much.
you in the face.
No.
Yeah, not kick you
You don't
somewhere.
lose sense of where it came from.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I really love how this tastes. I think that the dark fruit flavors really come through on the palate as well, but without being too heavy. There's a real full sense of acidity here. I think kind of edging into limes, like it never gets sharp at any point, but it's definitely full and crisp on the mid palate. And the finish is really taking me away. The tannins are there, but they're so gentle, and they meld really well with the fruit flavors. And for such a young wine, the length on it is really
good.
strong.
And for relative, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, for Oregon, oldish vines, but in the world scheme, younger at 11 years old. But for me, that acidity is a key to wine. It gives freshness, and that helps carry the length and carry those flavors through the finish, and gives it longevity and makes it great with food. And what makes me go after another glass of wine instead of another glass of water is acidity and that juiciness and freshness in wine.
Totally agree.
So
I'm gonna go with more hyperbole here. I'm loving the finish here so much. Like I'm really gonna run with it. Like Rieslings, when they last forever on my palate, and I'm getting really excited about it, I feel like it's like a bell ringing, or kind of like those triangles, and it kind of rings and just resonates forever. This feels for me like just this really long note on a cello. It's like deeper and a little dirtier than like a bell.
I love that.
But it really just hangs.
We're
and it's
stealing that, and we're going to put that
Nice.
on the website. There's going to be a quote.
I oftentimes like talk about wine in the
Dan's tasting notes.
I talk about wines with color. I always think of color when I describe them, and I love that you just use sound as a descriptor.
Yeah.
It's such a
And I love music, and that's where it hits for me. And I guess it just
so
it hangs out
cool.
for a long time with it, and it's not a full fade the whole time, right? Because the cello isn't like a bell where you hit it and it kind of resonates and kind of trickles away. The cello is full as the sound is going, and I really get that feeling.
I love that.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Makes me want to go listen to the cello.
yeah. Well, really digging this, and this is a wine that I feel like will last too. And you know, this is one of your Primo single vineyards. This is one of Walter Scott's top of the line wines, right?
Yeah,
So,
it's definitely one of our
Five barrels.
4 barrels.
Four
so
barrels.
it was 100 cases and some magnums. I've tucked a few extra magnums away for myself, but probably more than I should. But it's.
This is really good wine.
It's a special vineyard, and again, going back to the people that farm this vineyard are some of my favorite people that I work with. They're all great.
Awesome, yeah.
No one's better than the other. It's like choosing kids.
Okay, stop. Moving along.
Moving along. Erica, I've got a question for you. So while we were tasting earlier, and kind of as we've been going around now, it's obvious that Ken has an encyclopedic knowledge of the vineyards you guys work with. Not only what's in them, what's under them, what's around them, the people
She
involved.
talked to him about basketball.
It's really we might get there. My question is
encyclopedic about that as well.
Is his knowledge that deep about the vineyards that you guys don't work with as well? If you want to talk about,
I kind of joke around, and Ken's gonna hate me for this, but
No,
I call him the Rain Man of Burgundy and the Rain Man of basketball, because he can draw up details about the history of domains, and the history about vineyards, and the histories about basketball players going back to their college days, and sometimes even farther.
Yeah,
and
totally.
it's this almost photographic memory of certain details. Now, that doesn't translate into accounting or certain other organizational parts of our business. You can't have it all.
No, you can't have it all.
But there are things that he's passionate about, and when he takes that on, he knows more about. I mean, I'm awestruck on a regular basis when he talks about tasting wines from vineyards. Yeah, we don't work with that. I've never even tasted, or maybe I had at some point, and it's kind of in and out. And he can remember the date and the time and when he tasted it, and how it impressed him, and that's just it's amazing.
So there's certain things in life that stick to us like that, right?
Yeah.
And there's
strange.
for Oregon, there's some pioneers that I have so much respect for and an admiration for, that they laid the groundwork for us to do what we do. For all of us, everyone in this industry, to do what we do, and we can't thank them enough for going out there when there was nothing. Yeah. There was no market, nothing. They came up here and did their thing, and now, it's up to this next group to come in and not say follow through and take what they've done and
run with it
and not think they're going to do better, but try and elevate what's already there.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I think that. Sorry.
No, that's good. We're gonna turn this into a quick dumb party trick. This is probably like a 5-second answer. What's the most underrated player on the Blazers and the most overrated player on the Rockets? Ooh. And this isn't a description. You just give names. 2 names. That's the only answer you can give.
Robin Lopez.
Yeah.
Most underrated.
Yeah.
I love him.
Yeah.
And overrated. Oh man, I'm gonna say Dwight Howard.
We're gonna have to rehab.
Nah, a couple barks. It's okay. We get the point.
Dwight
He'll never watch this show. It's all good. So that was fun.
He might watch this some point.
Hey.
No.
So what are we drinking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We moved into a Chardonnay at this point. Yeah.
So, 2011. One of my dear friends, Jim Anderson from Patricia Green Cellars, sent me a text message, which read.
Come here.
Good dog.
3 guests. First show with 3 guests. No, not first. But
the text message read, "Dude, do you want some 20-year-old vine Pinot Blanc and 20-year-old vine Dijon Clone Chardonnay?" And I was like, "Well, yes, I would love that." And so this is a vineyard called Wojtyla.
Okay.
It is some of the oldest Dijon Clone Chardonnay in the valley. It's off of Lad Hill Road, up by Matt Kinney's place of McKinley. The owners, the Voitilas, are lovely people, and so we started getting this fruit in 2011. It became part of our Willamette Valley. 2012, we did it by itself. This is the 2013, and this is all out of a once-filled puncheon. I'm kind of obsessed with Chardonnay, particularly white Burgundy. These guys were in our tasting room and saw some of, what was that? Oh, I guess it's just that. I was like, is there lightning?
A lot of Chardonnay.
No. Flashes of Chardonnay.
Yeah. So I absolutely love Oregon Chardonnay and its potential. I think there's some wonderful people out there doing great stuff. And so this is Voitila. It's 23-year-old vine, Dijon 76 and 96. Again, lovely people and a really killer site. And this is a barrel sample that's been in barrel since about early October.
Nice.
And not just, I would say that we're not just obsessed with white Burgundy. We're both very passionate about what's happening with Oregon Chardonnay
Oregon's
right
got
now.
potential to blow some people's.
And there are
Word.
people that are doing
good.
that, and there are people that are paving the way, and that are they're all into Oregon Chardonnay, and it's really an exciting time to be.
Can't name them all, but some of my people that have, Doug Tennell's 2010 Cascadia was
Epic.
a epic, kind of a benchmark for Oregon Chardonnay.
Oh man.
Obviously, what's being done at Evening Land. Mark Vlasic at St. Innocent's been doing single vineyard Chardonnay back to the 90s. Bethel Heights, Crowley, Bergstrom, Evesham Wood, with the minuscule amount that they do. So there's a lot of folks out there that are really raising the bar.
Yeah, Metello.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anyway, there's lots and lots and lots. It's so exciting. And
go to the Oregon Chardonnay Symposium next year and find out for yourself.
Absolutely.
What the great Chardonnays out there. Erica helps put that, or one of the original organizers, and still does a lot of work on that. So.
March 2015,
There we
Attack
go.
of the Clones.
Yeah.
Many volunteer jobs.
Nice.
Yeah, I like
That's
that.
awesome.
I'm responsible for that really awesome name.
Excellent.
You guys can all
Geek
string me
Award.
up later.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, the nose here is just fantastic,
awesome.
and it's hard to even get into individual descriptors. You're just like, oh man, this is exciting Chardonnay, right?
Well,
you get kind of some apples. You can tell that there's some oak influence on here. We were talking about that before. Some people really love the stainless steel. I found that I prefer a little bit of it. You can definitely take it too far.
Yeah.
But this has I'm like, oh yeah, this is right up my alley.
So this is a single puncheon. It was
it's a
third fill.
It's a twice fill puncheon. I like the effect of the 500 liter barrels. The juice volume to oak ratio is really nice, and the exchange of oxygen, it just kind of captures it. And some of the producers I'm inspired by are using a lot of those bigger barrels. They're a pain in the ass because they're so big and clumsy and hard to deal with, but I think the wines that come out of them...
Single forklift, you gotta move a single barrel at a time, right?
Exactly. And when you're rolling them, they just about take you out, but... I think
hard to clean.
What happens with them, with Chardonnay in those barrels, is really nice.
There's a crazy nose on this. I mean, peachiness leading into cantaloupe, leading into other melons.
I get good complexity of honey.
There's all kinds of stuff going on in the nose in this, which is really awesome.
Peach makes me really happy. Peach, lemon, citrus, white peach. Those things. I mean, those in a liquefied form are what I would like to drink.
Absolutely.
As soon as someone starts talking about baked fig and caramelized apple and bubble gum in Chardonnay, I'm like,
I've never heard
one thing.
That's
easy,
a thing. Oh.
easy.
Well,
the
Don't get him
passion.
started.
That's all right. All right.
Okay, I could have.
Anyway, so
I get it though. That makes sense.
exciting.
Yeah.
It's exciting. Or
Just like anything, you can take it too far. Everybody appreciates stuff in a range, right?
Right. Yeah. It strains off the tracks.
bring it back on. Bring it back on.
That's great.
For us, we spend a lot of time. We drink a lot of wine that we're inspired by. We drink a lot of other people's wines, and we taste in the cellar a lot. And then to taste in different atmospheres and situations like this where you're kind of bouncing things off each other, it helps you.
Yeah.
For me, it helps me look at it closer. We had some folks tasting through the cellar the other day, trying to figure out what barrels they want, and it really helps to help you fine-tune and grow, because I think in this business, if you're not growing and evolving every year, you should do something else, because that's part of the fun, is there's so many things that happen every year, and every year is different, and this is a lot of fun. So to taste it in the winery and then to taste it out here, for me, it becomes a completely different thing.
The cutting edge of everything, is that right? Chaz and I would be unemployed if things weren't changing. if things weren't changing,
we can't have you guys unemployed.
No, well,
because we need
that'd
to
be
start
tough.
talking.
That'd be tough. Yeah.
They're buying some wine and talking about it.
But sort of like the peachiness. There's almost like an orangey component, like a little bit on the palate. But man, just like ripe, delicious fruit early on in the palate.
And not syrupy
loads
at all.
of no.
Kind of
Loads
like tangerine. You know, when you were
Yes.
talking about the citrus note earlier, that kind of riper citrus note, but still lots of acid. But there's this kind of more complexity.
And definitely not
Agreed.
lemons, and I think maybe even a little richer than limes, right? Like it's edging into that tangerine.
Yeah, keep it coming. I love it all.
Yeah, no, it's good. And at the Chardonnay Symposium, so I attended this. Sure. I attended this last time, and I was shocked at the number of people that talked about tension. And I think that's a great thing to come into vocabulary for this, because it really accurately describes something that I think myself and lots of other people enjoy about white wine.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think this applies to all the white wines, really, that the sense of liveliness.
Yeah.
It's like edging into freshness, right? Like if it's... There are red wines where if they're super heavy and rich and juicy, it works for them.
Right.
And there really aren't many whites where I think that's true. Some there are, but for the most part, like I think you want...
Yeah.
Tension and some energy, and just, you know, I was fortunate enough to work with Dominique Lafon at Eveningland, and tension and purity and freshness always come into play. And I think complexity comes once you have those things. The complexity comes with it, and working with the site.
And like I was talking about on the nose, like the oak is definitely there. If you're a total oak hater, right, this isn't going to float the boat for you. But I'd say try.
This is something that calms down.
Because you know those people exist, right? You know those people like, I can taste oak, take it away, right? I'm out of here. I'd encourage you to kind of try and get beyond that, but I think this, to me, this is fantastic use
Oak
of
is
oak.
never
I'm really
detracting.
loving it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that there's what's happened. I mean, part of the shift in Chardonnay is that this is happening in Oregon, this is happening in California, it's happening all over the world. I think is people are realizing that oak and Chardonnay do really love each other.
Yep.
But it's all about
Absolutely.
it's all about the level of acidity when you're picking the Chardonnay, and as well as the balance of oak. So it's not just clobbering the Chardonnay, but there's this inner play that is really complementary.
Not 100%. We're talking like 30%.
Right.
30. Like exactly.
Or even less, just depending on the concentration
Depending on
of
the
wine.
wine.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just finding that nice edge of balance. Reading a lot, and some of the people that I really like to read, you know, Michael Broadbent, always in one of his little editorials in Decanter is like, oak should do what a suit does for a man or a dress does for a woman. It should just frame all the great things that are already there.
Nice.
And that's one of my favorite. I have a lot of quotes and a lot of people that I love.
Yeah.
But that just is like, just frame it. Just accentuate all of the wonderful things that are already there, and then get the hell out of the way.
That is sharp. That is sharp. So you've been selling Chardonnay through restaurants for a long time now. I'm curious if you've noticed like a change, not in what restaurants buy, but what the people who buy from the restaurants buy. What moves?
I was just thinking about this because, you know, when I was at 1001 a few years ago, I had a couple of ladies come in and they said, you know, we really want a big buttery Chardonnay.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, well, I've got X Chardonnay or Y Chardonnay. And I brought it to them and they said, no, this just isn't buttery enough. And I was thinking that even at that point, you know, 4 years ago, the shift had gone away from that really rich, powerful, oaky, vanilla, creamy bomb Chardonnay, and they were saying that to me at that point is, you know, we love that, and that was what they love, and
Sure.
you know, and I respect that because that's
I've enjoyed wines of that style. I'll admit it freely.
they're into wine, they're drinking wine, they're not drinking Budweiser, they're
Right.
drinking, you know, and they know what they want, and I love that. And but even at that point, things had started to shift away, and in California, away from that butter bomb, and they were kind of commenting on the fact that it's harder and harder for them to find that style. And
Right. Oh, it's out there still.
I was going to say, yeah, it's got to be there.
Go
Yeah.
Ron Bauer.
It is.
Ron Bauer never stop. You know.
yes,
But it's
yes.
hard for them to get it in Oregon. That doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
there
nearly
are
impossible.
different
Hey, Kira.
there are different producers, and there's lots of different styles still
You're kinda
available
getting in his
Oregon, and
bubble.
there are
Yeah.
a couple that do that kind of richer,
I'm used to
powerful
it.
style for sure.
Good done.
But I think that things have shifted a little bit, and
Yeah.
it's an exciting time for Chardonnay all across America. I think
Absolutely.
especially
Yeah.
on the
It
West
kinda,
Coast.
like, Josh Bergstrom at the Chardonnay Symposium was like, California is experiencing as much of a renaissance as we are in Oregon, and there's some great stuff.
That's a good point, man. I've heard that from a couple people too. So
Go on.
we'll take a cut and we'll come back. Or if you're cool with this, we're cool with it.
We're cool with it.
Yeah.
Okay, we're cool. Honestly,
Yeah,
like
we're
it's
close.
distracting, but people love that stuff because they hear us talking.
There's a baby crying in the house. There's a
real.
dog
Chickens
snarling.
clucking.
Yeah.
Chickens underneath
That's
the
good.
deck.
You know what? I'm probably just going to keep this in. That's not even going to be a
No,
cut. So
Welcome
yeah.
to our world. Double wide.
And I love talking to these. So these are some of the most like some incredibly personable people in the wine village. No, but it's fun. And I'd say if you see them at tasting events or if you see them out, like chat with
Just
them about the
tackle
wine.
them.
Yeah, it's fun. There's
wine.
always exciting things to find out about.
There's never a lack of sass.
No.
Nice.
But it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I love this Chardonnay. As Ken mentioned, this is a
Agreed.
barrel sample. We're tasting a barrel sample because all of the Chardonnay he made from 2012 is sold out already. How long did that take? 3 months, 4 months?
3 months.
3 months. So sign up for the mailing list. Get on the website.
It wasn't a lot.
It's
It
awesome.
was
Still.
but, you know,
Yeah.
Still,
we're
that's
very flattered. Yeah.
fantastic.
When this comes up for sale, push the
tasted
button
it. It was
because
awesome.
Because there's not a lot of time to do it. So
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing your barrel sample with us.
It's awesome to have
For
you
you guys anytime.
at the
Yeah,
Double
love it.
Wide. And you're
Thanks
always
for having
welcome.
us out. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a good time.
great
Time for more beer and
competition
some.
wine.
Yeah, we'll see. we'll see. I'm going to try and get a couple more questions, I guess. Yeah.
Oh,
Sure.
yeah.
So this goes to both of you. New World wine, not from the United States. Where do you go? You're just buying one bottle to drink that night.
South Africa.
Great. You?
Oh, damn.
Boom.
I would
went there.
go
I know,
Barossa
right?
Semillon.
Nice.
Ooh,
Nice.
that's a good
I've had drinks there.
Barossa
answer.
Semillon.
That's a great
Okay.
answer.
There's Rick Burge in
Sure.
Lindach. His Semillon there, it's a little exotic but really waxy, but there's still lemon tones and it's old vine stuff and it ages really well.
I feel like they can age.
Really,
I'm aging a couple Australian Semillons
really,
myself.
really
That's a
interesting.
great answer.
Yeah.
And something that's totally overlooked, but it's got acid and freshness, and oftentimes people don't think there is a lot of acid in Semillon, and it's rad. It's
Awesome.
really rad wine.
I'm totally taken with South Africa and the value for the wines and the quality of the wines. And there's a couple of producers that Buchenholz-Kloof is an incredible producer from Franschhoek, and then also Hamilton Russell out in
Hamilton
Walker Bay.
Russell, yeah.
He's making Pinot Noir and Chardonnay that could stand up in a blind tasting to most of what's being done in the United States right now, and he's killing it. And
If you guys haven't tried those wines, I sold those wines for Galaxy, and we read.
nutty good.
Yeah, they're pretty special.
Nutty good.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
And they're committed. They're committed to, commitment, dedication.
But I
to
do
something.
love myself some Australian Semillon.
And I'm going to keep pushing because
Yep.
you guys are
Yeah.
good at this and you drink a lot of wine that's not your own and that's not from around here.
Yeah.
Let's talk about stuff that's outside the current convention. So we were talking about big buttery Chardonnays. Let's talk about big reds that are pushing 15%. What stuff that is not in the cultural cool sphere right now in Oregon? What stuff is like a guilty pleasure of wines of that style? Like, can you think of anything?
Pleasure.
Guilty pleasure.
Anything you're like, oh man, that Zinfandel. Really. So here's one of mine. Turley Uberat Zinfandel.
Oh, he went there.
If you put a bottle in front of me,
Boom, bitches,
I'm
boom.
excited to open it.
I mean, it's not really outside the. I would say Chateau de Pop or Rhone.
There you go. No, I think that's fair. That's fair.
Really,
Right?
really, I love Grenache. That
If Parker
kind of
thinks it's cool, it's probably
rich,
not that
dried
cool in
cherry.
Portland, so.
well, for me, I search for the cool vintages.
Sure.
The cooler vintages than
Definitely.
Chateau de Pop means you're going to still hit 14.5, 15, but there might be a little bit more balance, and it won't be sweet.
Nice.
And that's,
What's a good one?
Grenache,
What's a good one?
savory, Baccarat, Giganda,
Chateau Charvan is one of our favorites.
Charvan,
Nice.
Chateau de Pop, and they're
It's not Chateau. I think it's just Domaine Charvan.
Domaine
It's
Charvan.
amazing.
Killer.
Clos de Pop. It's really great.
Clos de Pop.
Pop is
Used to be
always
before
awesome.
that.
It's-
You know,
it's
had
Le
good
Vue
experiences with it,
Donjon.
man.
I love Le
Yeah.
Vue
Little
Donjon.
Donjon's
Donjon.
awesome.
I would say my guilty pleasure would be Tuscany. And
oh,
I know. Ooh, yeah.
Those get over the top.
Yeah.
I get over the top, but I would say that
Stain those
I
teeth.
stick more with Chianti, like really good and traditional Chianti producers that are kind of stick to that 100% Sangiovese line, like Felsina, Piana, Riechine. I like those, and they're bigger and they've got a little bit more oak than I'm used to. But that would be my guilty pleasure, and with a great steak, grilled.
At Gino's.
There we go.
Plug.
Gino's.
Yeah.
Plug.
Definitely.
Everyone goes there for pasta, but they dry
Best
age their
steak in the
steaks.
city.
Wow.
I never knew that.
I didn't know
And
that.
they have
Pasta.
they have a cellar,
they
so a
dry
lot of the
age their
wine
beef,
is like
and their Italian list
puts
is
up-
nutty.
yeah,
Okay.
and it's priced.
I've had
at
good
what
times
they
there,
bought
so-
it for.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Old school. That's old school. Selwood.
One more ridiculous question. Chad saw something on the internet. So you could. This dates this. This is just after the Big Blazer playoff game. What'd you see on Wikipedia?
Oh,
Did you see this?
It was.
This is great.
So was it Wikipedia? So
Yeah.
and you know how you can basically edit Wikipedia in real time
At will.
Right after Damian Lillard hit that shot,
Right.
someone put the owner of the Rockets to Damian Lillard, and then screenshotted it before someone could change it back to the original, like the actual owner.
Oh,
Nice.
So
I'm gonna have to look at that.
It's
You
probably
haven't
gone
seen that?
now, but it's just a
Okay.
screenshot that's been going around.
yeah,
So
Oh,
it's
yeah?
a good time.
floating the internet. at
So
this
Ken's a
point.
huge
Yeah,
Blazers
yeah.
fan, so that's why we're running with this.
I played a lot of basketball in high school.
Did you freak out when that shot happened? Like,
We both
I
can't
jumped
imagine,
and screamed,
honestly.
and we woke up the baby, and she was
Marcus
pissed.
Goodfellow actually posted on Facebook
Yeah.
about that.
I
I
was-
was like,
Facebook
Wow.
Facebook is having a good time
Yeah.
with Ken's reaction to this
Yeah,
basketball
I've been.
series
I posted more on Facebook
in the last 3 days.
ever during. You know, I grew up with like Clyde Drexler and that group, and you know, having grown up in Oregon, I love the Blazers, and to see them doing what they're doing,
And the team
it's
has
so much
heart,
fun.
and they're professional.
They don't quit.
And it's
They don't
not
quit.
about their egos or
commitment,
their
dedication.
It's
They hate losing, hate it. I mean, they just despise it, and that just makes me just so happy to watch people in a profession where there's a lot of sort of lackadaisical approaches. A lot of people that are like worried about their image, etc. These guys just want to win.
They
And
do.
They don't want to just win. They want to like cut your heart out with a spoon.
we also, like, a shout out to
Yes.
Oakland. My brother and my sister-in-law both live and teach at Oakland High, where Damian Lillard went. They so there's a huge love for Lillard in this house,
I bet.
and what he's doing, and between, you know, he and Rolo and LA and, you know, Batum, Frenchman in there.
So
Yeah.
I didn't know you were this big of a fan too. So this is great. Yeah, this is.
I mean,
this
I
is like,
can't,
yeah.
I can't rattle stats.
No,
like he
but this
can,
is
but
this is the real deal. I could
I
never
love
say
basketball.
I don't have this knowledge.
love
Got her
it.
hooked.
yeah.
Oh, I've been hooked. Oh, shoot.
So now we're
Easy.
done talking wine. We're talking sports. Time to wrap it up. You guys have to ask a question of these guys.
Of the internet.
Who's your favorite Blazer?
There
and
it is.
why?
There you go. Who's your favorite
Boom.
Blazer and why?
Good question. Let's get some good comments for these
Yeah.
awesome guests. Thanks for watching.
Go
We'll
buy a
see you next
jersey.
week.
And some Oregon Chardonnay. Just saying.
That shit is delicious.